Hello, dear children. Now let us continue the remaining part of your chapter number 4 history. The name of the topic the Mughal Empire. In the previous discussion, children, we have learned how Aurangzeb was unable to control the developments in the last years of his ruling and how that peasantry were suffered very badly. So now let us continue the remaining part. Page number 52. Japt and Jamindars. Japt means control, boys. Control, it is a Roman Urdu word. And Jamindars also a Urdu word. It means land owners. The main source of income available to Mughal rulers was tax on the produce of the peasantry. Here, the main source of income which were available to these Mughal rulers it was to collect tax on the produce of the peasantry. Peasantry means agricultural laborers or a poor small holders of land. Okay, peasants paid taxes through the rural elites. Peasants means a poor smallholder or agricultural laborer. They used to pay taxes through the rural elite. Elite means a select group that is superior in terms of ability. That is the headman or the local chieftain. The Mughals used one term, jamindars, to describe all intermediaries, whether they were local headmen of villages or powerful chieftains. The Mughals they used one term here, jamindars. Jamindars means that landowners to describe all intermediaries that means a link between whether they were local headmen of villages or powerful chieftains or chief of that village. Akbar's revenue minister Todarmal carried out a careful survey of crop yields. Akbar's his revenue minister was Todarmal. He carried out a very careful survey of crop yields, okay, crop was produced there. Passage and areas cultivated for a 10-year period, 1570 to 1580. On the basis of this data, tax was fixed on each crop in cash. So here we find what on the basis of this data, tax they had fixed on each crop in cash. Each province was divided into revenue circles with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. So here each empire it was divided into uh, income circles with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. This revenue system was known as Jabt. So the system of this revenue it was known as Jabt or control here. Okay, it was prevalent in those areas where Mughal administrators could survey the land and keep very careful accounts. So here was this system. It was widespread in particular area in those very areas where Mughal administrators they could survey and the land and keep very careful accounts. This was not possible in provinces such as Gujarat and Bengal. So it was this system, account system. It was not possible in the empire of such as Gujarat and Bengal. In some areas, the Jamindars exercised a great deal of power. The exploitation by Mughal administrators could drive them to rebellion. Here, in some areas, the landowners exercise a great deal of power there. Thus, the exploitation. Exploitation means act of selflessly. Sorry, act of selflessness. Okay, act of selfishly uh, taking advantage of someone, that is called exploitation. So, by Mughal administrator could drive them to rebellion. Rebellion means using violence. With the help of violence, they could drive them. Sometimes jamindars and peasants of the same caste allied in the rebelling against Mughal authority. Sometimes these owners and uh, those persons who own rent a small piece of land or agricultural laborer of the same caste allied means connected with, okay, connected in rebelling means to fight against Mughal authority. This peasant revolts challenged the stability of the Mughal Empire from the end of the 17th century. So this peasant, they fought, they revolts challenged the stability of the Mughal Empire from the end of the 17th century. She was here Akbarnama and I Akbari. You just get through this. Now let us see a closer look Akbar's policies. What were the policies possessed by this Akbar? Let us see. The broad features of administration were laid down by Akbar and were elaborately discussed by Abul Fazl in his book The Akbarnama, in particular in its last volume, the Ain-i Akbari. The broad features of this administration which were laid down by Akbar and were elaborately means in a detailed way, okay, or carefully arranged manner discussed by Abul Fazl in his book The Akbarnama, in particular in its last volume, the last volume, the Ain-i Akbari. Abul Fazl explained that the empire was divided into provinces called shuvas, governed by a subedar who carried out both political and military functions. Abul Fazl explained that the empire, okay, empire means a group of countries that is governed by one particular country or governed here was divided into provinces. It was divided into empire and shuvas, which was governed by a subedar who carried out both political and military functions here. Political and military functions he used to carry out here. Each province also had a financial officer or diwan. So each and every province they also had a financial officer, which is known as diwan in Urdu. For the maintenance of peace and order in his province, the subedar was supported by other officers such as the military paymaster Bakshi, okay, and the minister in charge of religious and charitable patronage, military commanders, Fauzdars, okay, and the town police commander, that is Katwal. Here was for the maintenance in order to keep peace and silent peace and order in the areas. The Subedar was supported by other officers, and these officers are such as military paymaster. Okay, military paymaster. Paymaster means person who pays, which is known as Bakshi in Urdu. The minister in charge of religious and charitable patronage. charitable patronage. Patronage means the support, especially uh, the supporter, especially in financial matter. Okay. So other military commanders, that is Fauzdars, and the town police commander, that is Katwal. So, boys, here Nurjahan's influence in Jahangir's court, you just get through this, read it, okay? Apart from this, towards the left margin of this page, boys, you find that in some words it has written in red color, that is dogma, by God, you read it, okay? Akbar's nobles commanded large armies and had access to large amounts of revenue. Akbar's nobles commanded large armies, okay, and had access to large amounts of revenue, money he received by, okay, money received by company or government, that is known as a revenue. So income was collected like that. While they were loyal, the empire functioned efficiently, but by the end of the 17th century, many nobles had built independent networks of their own. See, while they were loyal, that means the empire it was functioning very nicely. But by the end of the 17th century, many nobles they had built their independent networks of their own. Their loyalties to the empire were weakened by their own self-interest, and their belief or faith to the empire where becomes weak by their self-interest, one's own interest. While Akbar was at Fatehpur Sikri during the 1570s, he started discussion on religion with Brahmanas, Jesuit priests who were Roman Catholics and Zoroastrians. Okay, well, that means Akbar, when he was there at Fatehpur Sikri in the year 1570, he started to discuss on religion matter, okay, with different groups such as Brahmins, Jesuit. Jesuit means was a member of the Society of Jesus, priests who were Roman Catholics, and Zoroastrians. Zoroastrians means a Persian religion, okay. These discussions took place in the Ibadat Khana. He was this Urdu word, these two words, okay. He was interested in the religion and social customs of different people. It made him realize that religious scholars who emphasized ritual and dogma were often bigots. So it made Akbar to realize that religious scholars emphasize means give special importance, okay. Ritual and dogma were often bigots. Dogma it means a statement or an interpretation declared as author- authoritative with the expectation that it would be followed without question. And bigot means an individual who is intolerant of another person's religious beliefs or culture. Their teachings created divisions and disharmony amongst his subjects, so among his all people. Their teachings it create what divide among them, and disharmony. Okay, it becomes peaceless. There was no peace. Okay, having no peace is called disharmony, opposite of harmony. Okay, subjects means his people. This eventually led Akbar to the idea of Solikul or universal peace. So this led finally led Akbar to the idea of Sulaikul or universal peace. Sulaikul means it is Arabic, okay, terms means peace with all or universal peace. This idea of tolerance did not discriminate between people of different religions in his reign. So this idea of tolerating, okay, it did not discriminate between people of different religions in his kingdom. In his reign means in his kingdom. Instead, it focused on a system of ethics, honesty, justice, peace that was universally applicable. So, in terms of that, focus on a system of ethics. Ethics means a system of moral principles on honesty, justice, peace that was universally applicable. Abul Fazl helped Akbar in framing a vision of governance around this idea of Sulai Kul. So Abul Fazl he helped Akbar in order to frame a vision of governance around this idea of Sulai Kul of Akbar. This principle of governance was followed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan as well. So the same principle it was followed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan in better way. See here, this picture, figure 9, it shows Akbar holding discussions with learned individuals of different faiths in the Ibadat Khana. Okay, then Sulaikul, what is this? You just get through this one, this paragraph, what it has mentioned here. Let us proceed to the last page of this chapter. That is page number 56. The Mughal Empire in the 17th century and after that. Okay, the administrative, okay, connected with the organization of the Mughal, that is administrative here, and military efficiency of the Mughal Empire led to great economic and commercial prosperity. So the administrative and military efficiency of the Mughal Empire, Mughal ruling period there, it led what? To great economic and commercial prosperity, progress in the way of economic and commercial way. Okay. International travelers describe it as the favored land of wealth. See, international travelers who travels internationally describe it as the favored. Favored means famous, especially by a reputation. Okay, and a land of wealth. But these same visitors were also appalled at the state of poverty that existed side by side with great opulence. So, but they are the same visitors. They were also appalled. Appalled means horrified. Okay, horrified at the state of poverty. Okay, poverty means poorness. That existed side by side with the great opulence. Opulence means richness. The inequalities were glaring. Glaring means very easy to see, which was glaring, shining there. Documents from the 20th year of Shah Jahan's reign inform us that the highest ranking Mansabdars were only 445 in number out of a total of 8,000. So documents of that from the 20th year of Shah Jahan's ruling period inform us that the highest ranking Mansabdars were only 445 in number out of a total of 8,000. This is a small number, a mere 5.6% of the total number of Mansabdars received 61.5% of the total estimated revenue of the empire as salaries for themselves and their troopers. So this small number, it was very less. Okay, it was a mere 5.6% of the total number of Mansabdars who received 61.5% of the total estimated revenue of empire as salaries for themselves and their troopers. The Mughal emperors and their mansabdars spent a great deal of their income on salaries and goods. The Mughal rulers and their mansabdars means high civil and military officers and provincial governors. Okay, they spent a great deal of their income on the salaries and goods. This expenditure benefited the artisans and peasantry who supplied them with goods and produce. So this expenditure it was benefited to those people that artisans and peasantry, those poor workers who supplied them with goods and produce. But the scale of revenue collection left very little for investment in the hands of primary producers, the peasant and the artisans. But see, the scale of revenue, okay, the scale of money regularly which is received by them, it was uh, left very little in order to invest in the hands of the primary producers, the peasants, and the artisans. The poorest amongst them lived from hand to mouth, and they could hardly consider investing in additional resources, tools, and supplies to increase productivity. So the poorest among them they live whatever they are earning they used to consume completely. That is called from hand to mouth, and they could hardly consider investing in additional resources, okay, tools and supplies to increase productivity. The wealthier peasantry and artisanal groups, the merchants and bankers profited in this economic world. So the wealthier means the prosperous peasant. Okay, here wealthier peasantry and artisanal means is characteristic of an artist. Okay, groups those who have the characteristic of uh, an artist. That group, the merchants and bankers, they were profited in this economic world. The enormous wealth and resources commanded by the Mughal elite made them an extremely powerful group of people in the late 17th century. So the enormous means the very great wealth and resources commanded by Mughal elite what happened? It made them an extremely okay here very powerful group of people in the 17th century. As the authority of the Mughal emperor slowly declined, as that means that authority of Mughal emperor it fell down slowly, his servants emerged as powerful centers of power in the region. So his servants they began to appear as powerful centers of power in that area. They constituted new dynasties and held command of provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh. So they constituted a new dynasties. They formed their new dynasties. Okay, and different new dynasties and held command of provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh. Although they continued to recognize the Mughal emperor in Delhi as their master, by the 18th century, the provinces of the empire had consolidated their independent political identities. See, uh, although they continued to recognize the Mughal emperor in Delhi as their master, by the 18th century, the provinces of empire had consolidated their independent political identities they have. We will read more about them in chapter number 10. So, boys, we will learn about them in details, more about them in chapter number 10. So, here is the end of the chapter. Thank you all.